Thank you for staying with us. This week, the Organised Labour rejected the proposal of the Southern Governors Forum, which called for decentralization of the minimum wage negotiations to state levels. The Labour Union described the proposal as dictatorial and contrary to the basic principles of a national minimum wage. The union also noted that the decentralization of the wage negotiations will be detrimental to the welfare of workers across the country, adding that consensus is needed in deciding a figure for the new wage. President Bola Tinubu had, however, assured the Organised Labour that the new minimum wage would be transmitted to the National Assembly for approval once it is ready. Of course, joining me to discuss this, I have Alesta Wilcox, a policy analyst, joining us via Zoom. And of course, I have Olufemi Lawson, Executive Director, Center for Public Accountability, right here. Alesta Wilcox, good to have you on the show. All right, Olufemi Lawson, before we establish the connection again, Labour is frowning at the autonomy of state governors, right? To take on the minimum wage issue. Why do you think Labour isn't comfortable with this move?
Labour will not be comfortable, and of course, as good as the position of the southern state governors look, I think they also have a responsibility to go further, not by asking that they should be allowed to determine wages payable by their various states, but demanding that the needful be done. Why we'll continue to go around this same circle? This won't be the last of this that we'll witness. We were here some 4 or 5 years ago. We are here again, and we'll be here very soon again in the future. Is because the minimum wage, remains on the exclusive list. The governors must express their seriousness in their ability or their willingness to rather negotiate wages with their workers by demanding an amendment to the Constitution to remove wages and salaries from the exclusive list. For Labour, I don't know why the Labour is afraid, but for me, I think it is not so appropriate for the Labour Center to expect at this stage of a national development an harmonized minimum wage for workers in Lagos and Zamfara, Ekiti, or Kebbi. This is not realistic.
Okay.
It is not encouraging productivity. It is why our states have now been reduced to institutions that goes to Abuja every 30 days until we remove the minimum wage from the exclusive list and allow every state of the federation to negotiate their salaries and wages on the basis of their productivity, their earnings, their capacity. We will come every 5 years to discuss the issue of minimum wage, and it's becoming an embarrassment.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but from what you just said, you said it is going to be impossible at this point for us to have a harmonized minimum wage. Now, if Labour knows this, then is there sincerity of purpose with this drive?
No, Labour understands that it's practically difficult at this point, especially when you consider the current economic state of the country,
right, for
us to have an harmonized minimum wage, especially when you look at how some states can do, or some states have become practically, impotent financially. So we must be realistic at this point. Good, 30,000 to me is not a minimum wage, even in the poorest states in Nigeria. It's a poverty wage. It must be reviewed.
Okay.
But in reviewing the minimum wage, we should encourage a situation whereby states are made to pay, organizations are made to pay on the basis of their capacity and productivity.
Okay. All right, now let's look at this. Now, NLC condemned the attitude of viewing workers' salaries as charitable handouts rather than the rightful earnings of hardworking Nigerians. How do you react to this?
Of course, fantastic. It's not a privilege for anybody to earn its salary. It's a right. People are working for this. So nobody, either governor or whoever, should see it as doing any favor to any Nigerian worker or even in the private sector or any employer seeing it as a favor. People are working to earn these wages and they deserve their wages because they're working for it. That nonetheless, we must be conscious of the fact that we cannot stay on this lane where we want an harmonized minimum wage for workers in various categories in the private sector, in various states of the federation, where even allocations, earnings are not equal.
Okay, now, it appears the problems on ground right now are very complex. First of all, we have food insecurity, where farmers are not even able to go to the farms to do normal business, even churn out food to ease the pain of the masses. Now, Labour is coming at this time asking for a minimum wage. Now, do you think we're at a place in this country where we are just on a crossroad, where we might not have a solution to what is on ground? if you are going to prefer a solution, what would it be to quicken the pace that we have on ground at the moment?
Our problem is not so difficult that we cannot find a solution. What makes it look so complex now is because if you look at our current situation, our states are not productive.
Okay.
Today, I was listening to the president's statement at the National Economic Council meeting a few days ago, and I think I'm seeing a federal government putting unnecessary load on itself. In the first place, I don't think the federal government has any business doing so much to support the state the way the current administration is trying to do. If these states are productive, we shouldn't be negotiating 60,000 minimum wage for a state like Zamfara and Plateau. If you consider the abundance of natural resources on their soil. In those states, we shouldn't be negotiating 60,000 naira. But because our states have practically become appendage of the federal government, governors now make themselves look like appointees of the president. And every time we try to push it on the presidency, on the federal government, because the states are not. So if we get our states to be productive, if we get our states to deliver as much as they are capable to do in terms of their resources, both mineral and human capacity, I tell you, nobody would call this a problem that we cannot surmount. But it looks so much like a problem because everything now is centered on the federal government and it's becoming too huge for the federal government to carry.
All right. All right, we have to move on to our next issue now. Over the course of the week, President Bola Tinubu announced the rollout